Hello and welcome to our blog series In Conversation with ICPS. So today we wanted to change the conversation a little bit and talk about the rise of fintechs. And to do that, I'm very pleased to welcome a very special guest, Sébastien. So
Sébastien,
you're welcome. So Sébastien is what you would call an atypical guest. He's a Darwinist. He calls himself a Darwinist.
I call myself a digital Darwinist.
I'll leave him the floor just to explain his very atypical education path, because I think you started with more literacy to go to science and digital. So can you please just elaborate on that?
Important to note, I had my first computer at 9 years old. And just note that it will be important for following. Then I made the Mauritian school I was in, we call it in Mauritius Couvent-Lorette. Couvent-Lorette-Vacqua, it's a Mauritian school, till it was called CPE at that time. Then I switched to the French school, to Lycée La Bourdonnais. I was kind of good student at that time, till the second. The second is 2 years before the last year. And then I became a very bad student. And I made a scientific, I don't know in English how do you say it, but première. It's just before the last year. Mm-hmm. It was a disaster, and I switched directly to literature, final year of literature. And I wanted to go in my primary passions, which were making movies, making music, writing books, theater, psychology, and I went to study all that things. Nothing to do with digital computers, but I was still programming. That was my passion, my secret, not so secret, but my secret passion to program stuff. But it was also a disaster, my studies in theater and psychology, not only because I didn't like it at all, but also there was no outcome professionally for this in Mauritius.
It was quite early.
It was quite early, I guess. And then so I came back to my initial, I thought that, hey, let me take my initial passion, which is programming, and make it my job and keep, the music and all this kind of stuff. And then I went into computer, in programming, but keeping still in mind the creative part of myself within the computer world.
Okay, that's great. So can you please elaborate the different milestones, the challenges that you faced to get MIPS to what it is today?
I never planned to have companies. Okay. I began my professional journey in France. I was not allowed to work more than 17 hours per week, so it was half-time. So I was financing my studies in France I was working at Fnac.com, the client service of Fnac.com. So my job was to take the insults of clients who didn't receive their parcel all day. And then at night, I went to the CNAM, the Conservatoire National des Arts et Métiers à Paris, to finish my studies. And I just wanted to program stuff. Then the managing director of Fnac.com, I don't know why, he spotted me. And when he went out of Fnac.com, he said, I want you to come with me and to found my consulting company, which was called Keley Consulting at that time. And I want you to be my first employee. I didn't know anything about consulting. Consulting what? What is a consultant? I didn't even know that. So I made my first arms with this guy by making consultings for banks, in fact, at that time.
Okay.
And I learned...
In France?
In France.
Okay.
I learned a lot of things. And then I wanted it was not planned to come back in Mauritius and just, in Mauritius we say to work for myself, just to be a freelance. Had my first client, second client, third client. Oh, how will I do it? Let me perhaps hire a freelance, another freelance. Then I created my first company, which was called Bquad at that time. It was a web agency. First employee, second employee, third employee. Hey, I said to my wife, it was not meant to go like that. I don't want to manage human resources. Then she joined me. She said, no, okay, I have a good feeling about it. Let us continue Bquad. So 5 employees, 5 employees, we created a second company, a communication agency, which was called Genesis. Then we created Bquad Computers, which was selling hardwares. Then we created even a company which was called Nagadeco. We imported stuff from Bali. And finally, a department of Bquad, which was called Bquad ePayments, which was the premises of the payments, the e-commerce payments in Mauritius. was gaining into interest. And this department became the company MIPS, and MIPS absorbed all the other companies, including the employees. Some of my employees right now are with me and my wife since 12 years, since the beginning. In fact, we did not create a company to stop to sell, to stop to sell. It's a logical evolution of a previous company to the other one, leading to, for time being, MIPS.
Okay, well, MIPS is a good success story today.
I hope so, I guess so. But even MIPS evolved, because MIPS, you know, originally meant Mauritius Internet Payment System. Because I never planned to go elsewhere than Mauritius. But now Seychelles, Maldives, Madagascar and Africa, and even it was only credit cards at the beginning. Now we are talking about digital payments. So the M became multiple, so multiple internet payment system. One day perhaps it will become something else. But in fact, it already evolved also in the spirit. You know, the baseline of MIPS at the beginning was payment connecting worlds. I would explain that if you want later. But now it has changed slightly to orchestrating payments. So even the mindset is changing within the same company.
Which brings me to the next question. So you've changed all that. I mean, you've adapted to the changing outside world and requests and new clients, etc. So if you had to explain the evolving payments landscape and how you adapted to it and how you see new trends coming up, how would you summarize that? I mean, before, and how do you see things coming up afterwards?
I was in a conference recently, and someone was, the subject of the conference was helping this company to digitalize their company. And I was telling them, you know, I'm supposed to be there to talk to you to how to digitalize your company, but I won't. Because your company is already digitalized. What you need is orchestrating your digitalization. Everything is digitalized nowadays, but there's a lack of orchestration. I often take the analogy of an orchestra. You have players, the violinist, the bassist, the singer, the choral, or perhaps you want to play a symphony. And my job is to be the director of a symphony. And what is the symphony? It is the symphony of the payment ecosystem of a merchant. And the job of a director is to coordinate and to make this singer or this violinist to play in harmony with the rest. Perhaps this player is better than this one, but it's not now that you must demonstrate that you are better than this one. If you want to demonstrate that you are the best in your exact domain, please go to a solo concerto if you want, but don't come and play a symphony. So the job of a director is to orchestrate all that. And in the fintech world, and in fact in the digital world in general, we need some orchestrators to orchestrate this going everywhere digitalization of everything.
Okay. It's interesting because when you talk about orchestration, obviously there's a lot of players in that ecosystem that need to work in tandem or in some sort of a synchronized way.
Yes.
Yeah. So now when you work with regulated bodies, with non-regulated bodies that work at different speeds, that have different realities, for example, banks who have been there for a while and, you know, with the risk, which is very strong and very well established, how do you make it all work together? I mean, how does everyone align on the same expectations and speed for the same time to market?
It's very energy consuming. And in fintech, there's fin and there's tech. Obviously, fin and tech. The tech part, bizarrely, is the easy part. The fin part is the touchy part, is the most difficult part. You know, technology is just mathematics in my life. We always find a solution before the problem arises. That's not a problem. But convincing people that this or this or this shall be done that way or that way or that way because your intuition tells you that it must be done that way, it's difficult. Why? Because especially big, huge companies, they like to have figures, Excel sheets that demonstrates things. But to take the analogy of a surfer, a good surfer, he doesn't start to swim when the waves is under him, it's too late. He anticipates the wave. There's a feeling, a part of feeling into it. If you have figures to give to someone, that's by definition too late. I never go in a segment of a market where I have figures. Never. Because if figures exist, it's too late. My job is to, with the emotion and the feelings stuff, to go on segment of markets where no figures exist.
So then that brings me to emerging technologies, because this is what we're talking about. It's not something that's established, it's not something that's been done before, so obviously there's no figures, it's something that's new. So how do you keep abreast of these new emerging technologies? How do you know, based on your experience, that this is going to work at some stage? Like, do you look at the market and just say that this is going to work for that particular segment, or it's just about the technology?
You know, I make a clear difference between an inventor and an innovator. Okay. An inventor invents new stuff but dies poor. Nikola Tesla, for example. An innovator mash ups inventions of others and dies rich. Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison. Okay. The fact is that emerging technologies often is not a new outstanding stuff. It is someone who orchestrated already old things that were existing to make it innovating. You can be, often there's a confusion between innovation and digital. You can innovate in a process. So when inventing things and talking about new technologies, in fact, those so-called new technologies, AI, everything is AI nowadays. I saw on my remote of these, aircon, there's now a mode called AI mode. Often new trendy technologies are often buzzwords, marketing buzzwords, but behind there are real inventors that invented stuff years ago, and finally someone took this idea, hey guys, there's either a need to be addressed there, or either a need that even the people don't know that they have this need. Henry Ford said, I never ask my client what they need, because they would ask me for a more speedy horse. But my job is to make cars, not to make horse. Our job also is to educate our clients. No, you think that your need is that, and you make a confusion between the way and the mean that you want to address your needs, but let us help you to orchestrate that for you. Okay.
Now, if we go in a bigger scale in Africa, on the bigger continent, financial inclusion is something it's a reality, it's a need, it's where governments are putting money. And so as a fintech today, fintechs are supposed to be part of this to ensure that, financial inclusion becomes a reality. So what are your thoughts about this? How ready are you, and how ready can you make banks and other institutions, how you can orchestrate all of them to make sure that they become ready for the financial inclusion?
I guess that we meaning the ecosystem. We will be ready with this financial inclusion when we will accept that decentralization is a must. I explain myself. Blockchain is a technology which is all about decentralization of truth. I will make another analogy, the analogy of a real estate agent. Before the rise of internet, or the commonly used cheap internet, the role of a real estate agent was what? To put a relation between someone who have a house to sell, for example, and someone who wants to buy a house. This is a centralization of data, of information. This was the role of a real estate agent. With the rise of internet, they have troubles, the real estate agents, because of internet, there's not only a spread of this data, because any buyer can be put in relation with any seller, but you have also what was missing with a real estate agent was the confidence. A real estate agent, anyway, his KPI was to sell. On a website, or with Uber, for example, you have ratings. We are near to the concept of democracy here. So the majority I call it the popular pressure strategy, I guess.
Peer popular pressure.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Naturally, if you give the opportunity to the people to rate something or someone, naturally, good or bad, there's a truth that is going to happen. For example, this Uber rider. Blockchain, same thing, but for finance. Finance is really centralized, as now we are speaking. Central banks, regulations, etc. Blockchain is coming. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, and cryptocurrencies are based on a technology which is called blockchain. And blockchain is all of the art of decentralizing the truth. Blockchain comes with a proof by the people. The people not only meaning the humans, but the proof by the quantity. So are we ready for what is coming, financial inclusion? In fact, if you believe in Darwinism, it's not a matter of believing or not into Darwinism, but it is a word that everybody knows. It is the law of the more powerful. The best animal who adapts to his ecosystem survives. Digital Darwinism, same thing. You can consider, in other words, the trend of technology, of life as a river. Yes, you can't go upside the river, you go downside the river, but you have the ability to go this way, this way, this way on the river, but you follow the river. So there's nothing to do but to follow. So anyway, we are going towards that. Anyway, we are going to AI.
In any case, I mean, change is a must. I mean, if you look at huge institutions that were very well established, like a GE, they took the hard hit. Same for Nokia, same for, that was there, but then they failed to change and Apple came over and took over, etc. Same for Blockbuster. The name remains, but the institution's not there anymore, so you have to change. You don't have a choice.
Or you become the dinosaurs.
The others will change if you don't change anyway, and you'll get left behind. So I agree with you. We have to change.
We have to. That's not a problem, huh?
Of course not. But then it's how flexible you are, how ready you are to adapt, etc. And this is why, for me, one of the biggest challenge today are these institutions and laws and regulations that have, they're there for a reason. Huh? I'm not saying they shouldn't be there. Whether it's a GDPR, I mean, data protection policies, whether it's, with data sovereignty that accompanies that, or security, or I don't know, PCI DSS, etc., etc. So all these rules and regulations have been put in place because there have been some people that have done things that shouldn't have been done, and they have to protect police and sort of the law and the application of the law. So today, as makers of change or being one at the forefront of these triggers of change, how do you orchestrate with these pillars of risk, of security, and things that are deeply anchored with the players in the ecosystem that have been there for a while and that have that in their reality, and they don't have a choice today because that's how it is?
I would say that their role is crucial, but I will take another analogy. Like Christophe Colomb discovered America, or like Elon Musk made the SpaceX rocket go up. The objective of Elon Musk was to create a rocket 7 times cheaper than the NASA rockets that could be reusable. That was the objective. If to achieve this objective, he was following the rules and regulations, the rocket would have never left the ground. Then the rules and regulations adapt to this innovation. I guess that part of the job of the fintechs, and not only of people who want to make things happen, an invention can't really rise within a framework. But generally what we see is that when an innovation is there, a framework is created around to regulate it. And I guess that the good balance would be to have not a rigid framework, so like your kids, for example, a round thing can't enter into a square things. So I am creating round things, but the regulation is square. How do we do? Perhaps the regulation could be a sort of plasticine, polymorphic, and adapt, still protecting the innovation, but adapt the way it protects the regulation.
Okay. It's interesting you say that because we talked to one of the international regulators and he said exactly the same thing. And he even went a little bit further, saying that we should have some kind of consortium bringing the change makers and the players that are well established to come together and, to work together. Because when you sort of participate in building things, then you find it easier to adapt. But if you are being like, if we tell you this is how it's going to work, you resist. So finally, I'd like to ask you, so for those that want to start, that are finishing school, etc., that want to go in the fintech industry, for you, what are the key things that they should be really worried about? What are the key ingredients to make this work?
Do it the youngest possible, because it is really, really energy consuming. The vast majority of people you will meet won't be listening to you because you want to change their life. You must be self-confident that it will be difficult, you will perhaps fail, you will fail multiple times. So try to have this spirit and try to have a little core team, meaning your family also, around you that will protect your energy towards the external world, which will be, I must be clear with you guys who are getting out of university, it will be difficult if you want to go into fintech. Fintech is a buzzy word, but behind the buzzy word, there's a lot of energy. If you feel that you are good at technology, mathematics, etc., that's 1/4 of a job. 3/4 of a job will be your personality.
And having maybe the good crowd around you to help you.
Yes, have around you a good crowd with good feelings. And important thing, do not specialize yourself in anything, be a good generalist. I guess that if you want to succeed into fintech, you must be aware of what is happening around you, not only into technology, but economically, psychologically, sociologically, and to be curious of everything. Do not be excellent in one thing. Be good at many things.
Okay. I'm sure that is going to be a very good takeaways for the newcomers. Now, what about MIPS? So how do you see MIPS in 10 years from today?
You remember, Christine, what I said at the beginning of the interview? I never planned anything in my life. I will not start today. I let the energies guide what shall happen for MIPS.
So wherever the road takes you, that's where you go.
Yes. So MIPS is part of a creation, but I do not mix myself with my creation. I consider MIPS as a child, and as all child, they are supposed to become adults and autonomous adults. So I am the parent, I will always guide the child, but I will not keep the child into mom's or dad's house till 40 years old, let us say. So please go and see the world by yourself.
Okay. And what about the payments landscape? Do you foresee anything, any trend coming up, or child, please grow?
There's a lot of trends coming out for payments. Around the act of payment, there are multiple factors behind. At the beginning, I was considering MIPS as being the orchestrator, considering the payment as the center of gravity of the merchant's ecosystem. The only real contract in life is not a signature, it's a payment. The payment, the act of payment, the exchange of value, this very precise moment where you give a value, you give something, a product or a service, and you receive money in exchange of value. So I guess that the evolution is not going to happen into the nature of a flow. So it was hard cash flow at the beginning, and it was really product against product at the beginning. Now it has become digital. So I don't know what's the next step. So the nature of a flow. Then the nature of the point of exchange, the friction point. If we are talking about cards, chips, then contactless. Now it's really easy now to pay with your eye, with your fingerprint, so this is the friction point. Or e-commerce also. Even with e-commerce, some techniques. So this is the friction points. And finally, we are in fact talking about the nature of money at the end of the day, because a payment is like a tap for a plumber, a tap with water. Consider money like water. Okay, we open a tap to let money flow. So the nature of money, I don't know what is the future of the nature of money, and by extrapolation, the nature of our economy, in fact.
Okay, I think it's clear. So I'd just like to finish this off by saying thank you very much, Sébastien, for your very insightful comments for our new viewers, so those that come out of school, for the established parties in the ecosystem. And I'm sure that they're gonna go back from this interview with something, at least one thing that they'll have learned. I'm happy if that could help. Thank you very much, Sébastien.
Thank you, Christine.
And for our other viewers, I'd just like to say stay tuned for our next episode of In Conversation by ICPS. Thank you.